Well, people were asking for Pike and Shot Total War. I guess you got your wish. I just have a feeling the results are more than a bit over the top. Patch 1.3 is out for Warhammer 3, and one of the biggest changes in the entire update completely reworks how range units function when positioned within an allied formation. To prevent artillery, guns, and archers from holding their volleys when friendly troops are directly in their line of sight, they can now fire through them like they don't even exist. We're all ghosts now, baby, and I must say, while the change is hilarious, it's also horrendously thought out, terrible balancing, and will likely be reverted within the next several weeks. On screen, you will see a bunch of examples where my range units, like Iron Hail Gunners, Flamers, Horrors, and even Iron Blasters, have their line of sight entirely blocked, but are able to shoot at peak efficiency through dozens of ranks of their own troops without a lick of friendly fire damage. It would seem logical that direct fire weapons would need direct line of sight to hit their targets, but that is no longer the case. Simply make sure your blocker melee units up front are touching and at least partially overlapped with the range units you want to shoot, and they will do so, which allows you to concentrate firepower and blow through melee armies at speeds exceedingly uncommon in the Total War franchise, even in titles like Fall of Samurai that center entirely around gunpowder. Now, in a multiplayer setting, tactics on this scale would not work very well for obvious reasons. Players are better at flanking, punishing you with artillery, and using magic. And yes, of course, vortex spells, wind spells, and bombardment spells would cause devastating casualties if you blobbed as much as I'm doing here. But the same principles can be applied on a much smaller basis and still be incredibly effective on a squad level, such as positioning monstrous infantry or monsters directly in front of your flamers, horrors, lords, and heroes, and cackling maniacally as they explode everything in front of them. By only overlapping 3 or 4 units and not your entire army, most of which aren't susceptible to wave clear spells, you're getting the same line of sight and firepower benefits without the downsides. As you can probably imagine, against AI, this will be very abusable because they are rarely, if ever, effective at utilizing magic, and if you think that AI will regularly punish your disgusting blobs in campaign, you are just lying to yourself. Tzeentch, maybe with Searing Doom spam. Skaven, maybe with Warp Lightning. Most other factions are not going to have an answer to this in campaign. In a lot of these examples, I am literally going AFK against a numerically and financially superior army and taking minimal to 0 casualties. And in some of them, like this Ogre Kingdoms battle, you can see Mournfang Cav in front of the barrel of my Iron Blaster, and it is still able to fire without killing any of my own models. It's true, there have been issues in regards to unit responsiveness and range troops being unable to shoot when they probably should, and that needs to be fixed, but removing aspects of strategy from a strategy game, removing the need to position appropriately, and dumbing down the series at every available opportunity is not a good way to improve this game moving forward. Well thought out, disciplined formations with overlapping fields of fire and clear views on target should always trump mindless blobbing, and while an army composition like this would certainly be punished by a decent player, the AI is not a decent player, and you will still be able to effectively utilize these changes in multiplayer in what I would consider are illogical ways, just on a more squad level basis than army-wide. Putting Iron Guts in front of my Lead Belchers and still having the entire unit fire is unintuitive, gamey, illogical, and quite frankly, stupid. They should blow that entire unit to Kingdom Come with friendly fire damage, but with this implemented the way it is, there's no friendly fire at all. Now, inevitably, I know I'm going to get comments here saying, this is so easily countered, factions like Cathay have been underperforming, they need this, and I would say, no, the hell they don't. If you want to buff Cathay in ways that actually make sense, don't turn their entire army into Casper the Friendly Ghost. Implementing something like this is a slippery slope, and the question is, where would it end if we take that to its inevitable conclusion? Like, should we just take friendly fire completely out of the game now because it's inconvenient? Should we take other elements of strategy that require thinking and planning and get rid of them too? If you want to benefit from the power of gunpowder, you should have to think about how best to bring that firepower to bear, and line of sight has always been a core component of that. The whole, if you don't like it, don't use it argument has been seeing a lot more prevalence in the last couple of years, and as always, it is a terrible line of logic, especially for a strategy game. To me, this seems like a poorly implemented band-aid fix that will cause a lot more problems than it does solutions, and just from a common sense perspective, it should not work. If you feel range units are underperforming right now, we can think about other ways to buff them, but gunpowder units need line of sight. That's a core tenet of how they function. What the hell was CA thinking? So I hope this part of the patch is reverted soon. I think it will be.